What's up, everybody? We are live and in the studio, which is our homes. We're gonna let people trickle in over the next little bit. You know, it's a little bit early, but we're so excited to have you all here. We're gonna have some more time to introduce ourselves, but my name is Sean Brewer. Down below me, Jenna, do you want to introduce yourself just briefly? We'll go into more detail a little bit later.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jenna.
Awesome. And Jenna is new to our team. You've seen her work if you've been on Instagram because she's our new social media manager, helps out with all of our great content, and she's definitely given a shot in the arm to our very lackluster social media presence before. So Jenna has been an awesome addition to the team. So excited to have her. And she also has some other great areas of expertise, which she'll be sharing with us a little bit more today. Come on in, guys. We're so excited to have you here. Those of you who are jumping on, while we're kind of letting people trickle in over the next little bit, go ahead and type in the chat box where you're viewing from. I am in sunny Arizona, and after Memorial Day, it kind of hit me in the face that it's really summer now, and the pool is still cold for Arizona, so it's not in the hundreds yet, so it's not like it's awesome pool weather, but it's pretty close. Jenna, where are you viewing from right now?
I'm coming from Michigan, and it's actually warm here. It went from like 70s to 60s to a full 90 degrees. It's definitely pool weather here in Michigan.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
You guys probably go swimming if it's like above 70.
Yeah. Well, not me personally, but many other people.
Oh, man, look at all these awesome people we got coming in. Texas, Colorado, Iowa, Virginia, Montana, California, Denver. Awesome. And I know we got more people coming in, but pretty much as you can see across the coast to coast, north, south, east, west. We're so excited to have you guys here. It's a brand new adventure as we have a new essay prompt, Thank the Maker, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more, where we know about that information, when it's going to actually be on PTCAS, all that stuff. But we're so excited to have all you guys here. And today, the more dialed in you are and the more engaged, you're going to get more out of today. Okay. If you just kind of sit back, kick your feet back, chill, and I'm going to get some essay information through osmosis. You will get something out of today. Absolutely. Just by being here. But the main part that we want you to focus on is what are your big key takeaways that we're going to have today. Okay. So we're going to have people kind of come in and out in the next few minutes or so. So let's go ahead and jump in because it's a Saturday afternoon and it's summer and it's getting ready for application season. So time is money. Let's go ahead and make the most of it. All right. Okay. So a little bit of housekeeping. Okay. If the video freezes, don't panic. Just let us know in the chat box and it'll buffer. And there's also going to be a recording of the webinar that'll be sent out about an hour or so after the presentation is completed. So please don't freak out. Just bear with us. And like I just said, you're going to get so much more out of today if you have either a blank document or a blank piece of paper to kind of write down some thoughts and some ideas. Please don't just sit there in silence. And also, the more engaged you are on the chat and the more questions you ask, you're going to get more out of today. You get out of it what you put into it. So go ahead, bring your questions, bring your ideas. As you guys are coming in that are just joining, go ahead and shout out in the chat box where you're viewing from. As you can see, we got people coming from all over the place, which is fantastic. And if you do have questions throughout this webinar, please put them in the chat box. We will go through and review them at the end if we don't get to all of them. Both Jenna and I will be presenting today. So please, if you have a question, the person who's not speaking is going to go ahead and kind of moderate the questions and we're both going to answer them. So go ahead and put them in there. Awesome, guys. Look at this all over Montana, Tennessee. Great. Runtime for the webinar is going to be right about an hour. Okay. Like I said, I respect your time. I've got a young family. Jenna's got stuff to do. Everybody's busy, right? So let's make the most out of this time that we have here. And then we go forward and we make sure that you have a great platform to start working on your essays. Baltimore, Maryland. Pratik, how you doing, man? Okay, so a little bit about us. I'm going to start with myself, and then I'll let Jenna do a little bit more of a deep dive. Since she's newer to many of you, a lot of those of you who've been on previous webinars before, been on my YouTube channel, are probably tired of seeing the slide. But so first and foremost, I want to start with my beautiful family on the left side over here. It's my wonderful wife, Tesley, my oldest daughter, Nora, and then our youngest daughter, Lila. And we're about to have an even littler daughter in the next week and a half. We're getting ready to have our third baby girl, who is going to be named Gemma. So whenever I talk to Jenna, I mix them up all the time. So, but yeah, Gemma is going to be our new baby girl. So I am severely outnumbered, but love my daughters. They are awesome. And my family is just the reason why I get up and do this. It's my family and the pre-PT community. So pretty much get up each day, and that's who I go to work for. I went to Brigham Young University for my undergraduate degree, and I was the pre-PT club president there and learned a lot about what helps people get into PT school successfully. And then I went to NAU's Phoenix campus for my DPT degree, had a fantastic experience there. And I'll share briefly some of the things I learned while I was at NAU about applying to PT school, because I was able to be on a panel where we were reviewing essays and the overall applications of applicants before they came in for interviews. And I learned a lot about that experience. I currently work as a physical therapist for ATI Physical Therapy. I've been there pretty much my whole career. I had a brief stint where I went to a different company. Things didn't work out so well. Just fine. It's just, you never know. And went back to ATI. Really had a good experience there. And I've been coaching pre-PTs for over 10 years, which is weird to say. I feel kind of old saying that, but that's okay. And like I mentioned, I was on a panel where we reviewed the application essays and interviewed 17 applicants and learned a ton from that experience. And just in the past 3 years, performed almost 1,000 application essay edits and nearly 350 mock interviews. Coaching individuals all across the country. We help with general application coaching, essay coaching, and interview coaching. And we've had clients accepted into over 50% of the DPT programs across the country, and that number continues to grow as our footprint continues to grow and more people learn about us. I was accepted to 5 of the 6 highly competitive DPT programs that I applied to, and I ultimately chose to go to NAU. And I'm a lumberjack at heart, so go Lumberjacks. Jenna, I'm going to kick it to you.
So hi, everyone, again. I'm Jenna Maroney. I got my bachelor's degree in professional writing with a focus in editing and publishing and English from Michigan State University. And then I just recently graduated from Central Michigan University with a master's in creative writing. I worked as a graduate assistant at Central Michigan in their writing center for the past 2 years, and I edited many students' papers from undergrad to graduate and even some faculty papers. And I just helped students. My goal is helping students feel more confident in their writing, and that's what I hope to do with you guys as we go through your editing and your essays for this application year. I also worked as a copy editor for CMU's literary magazine, Central Review, for 2 years. I have a passion for writing and just helping others. And even if you don't feel like you're a writer, there's a writer in all of us, and I'm here to help pull that writer out of you. My family is my world. I have an older sister, where in that middle picture you can see her, she's the one with the brown hair, and she's a nurse. And then I have a twin sister who is actually in the PT school right now, her 3rd year, and is going to be a future DPT. And then I also have 2 cats, Fred and George. They are also my life. I am becoming a crazy cat lady, but if you are too, that is okay. We band together. And then my mom and dad are in the first 2 photos, but they have always supported my passion for writing, and I can't say that I would be where I am today without them. So I'm excited to be a part of this team and to help you guys with your essays. And yeah, running the social media has also been a blast. I love creating content, and I love to see that you guys have also really brought up our standing in our Instagram. So if you don't follow us, please do, and spread the word about us as well. So I think that's all I have for me.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenna. So Jenna's role is, we're moving into this, is now we're kind of combining forces, and we're having, as our need has grown for editing, we wanted to bring someone on who loves editing. And I love it and I enjoy it, and I'm still very much a part of the team, but we needed some help. And so Jenna's coming on board, and she's bringing all of her great experience and expertise, and she's pairing it with all of the understanding that we have for pre-PTs and what makes great pre-PT application essays. And now she's a master. She's a wizard of it. And so as you're working with the team, it's Jenna and myself for essay coaching. And it's a great fit for both of us. We get to draw on both of our skill sets to help the customers that we work with get to the best possible outcome. So we're both going to be sharing different things with you guys today. So let's look at this. Our goals for both Jenna and myself are to give you some concrete direction to help you be able to tackle your PTCAS and other supplemental application essays quickly and efficiently. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, you can go on to the PTCAS website right now, and PTCAS opens on June 15th. Okay, so when you open up PTCAS on June 15th, the new essay prompt is going to be in there. We're going to let Jenna go over what the new prompt is and things like that. But the new prompt will be in there. We've had several people on our YouTube channels be like, hey, I log into PTCAS and the old prompt is still there. Well, that's because the new one hasn't been added until it shows up on the 15th. But we'll talk about where we got that source information from. We will also be sharing with you guys an exclusive limited time offer to work with us this application cycle on your application essays. And it's one of the essays are probably my favorite part, because that's where we really get to, like Jenna said, we bring out the writer in everybody. The way I talk about it is like everyone has their own story, and being able to learn how to effectively tell your own story is a gift and a knack. There's research now that supports people who are good and effective storytellers rise up the ranks in all industries, right? Because they can help people get behind them, and they can condense a message and make it compelling and engaging and interesting. And you're definitely gonna have to do that, whether you're a staff physical therapist or you want to move up in leadership, you want to be a business owner, whatever it is in physical therapy, you need to be able to tell effective stories, and that's what we're teaching people how to do here. So those are our two prongs that we're going to take. The bulk of it will be the first part, and then the last part of the presentation will share with you the exclusive offer that we have today. Okay, so I want to ask you guys, and go ahead and type in the chat box, why on a nice June Saturday afternoon or morning would you like to come to a webinar about PTCAS essays, of all things? So go ahead and type in the chat box. I'll give it a minute to kind of populate there, but so many applicants are coming and they're concerned. Like Jenna said, maybe they don't feel like they're a good writer, or they are just overwhelmed. Like, man, I've got so many things I could write about. I'm not sure what's the right one or what's the best one. Go ahead and type in the chat box what you guys are looking for out of this webinar, so that way we can kind of hit on those things as well. Jenna, from your experience when you were working with people in the Writing Center, what were some of the common frustrations, complaints, or concerns that they would have when they were coming in?
The main thing is that they always felt like they were just bad at writing, or they didn't really get like the format of their paper. Like should they format it? What should they address first? Or how can they expand on this important fact with staying within the word limit? So I just helped them, always starting off with brainstorming and just breaking things down, not focusing too much on the format too soon, because it will all fall into that place. And I always say, write everything down, because you can always take away, but it's usually harder to add. So if you get everything, it's probably going to be like word vomit on a page, but at least you have all these ideas or all these options, so then you can pick and pry and make that perfect essay. Awesome.
I love that. And we're going to get to have a lot more detail about like other brainstorming ideas that can really help you guys. But just looking through and reading through some of these comments here, extra guidance. Writing about yourself is hard. I totally agree with that, Abigail. It's so hard for applicants to like, it's a skill to be able to talk about yourself in a way that's not conceited. And we're going to share with you how you can do that. B, how are you doing, B? Glad to have you on today. Have a solid jumping off point, writing a better essay, pointing in the right direction, right? So that's something that's very common as well. And I'm sure Jenna can attest to this. How you start determines how you end. It really does. And a lot of applicants, they're like, okay, I'm just going to start writing. And you get committed to a toxic relationship right off the bat. So we'll share with you effective ways to brainstorm and kind of keep your options open to make sure you're getting the best opportunity to get the essay that you want. And I joke with Jenna that like after I've done so many of these, we were on an essay call together just a few weeks ago, and she was so friendly and encouraging with this applicant. And I was just like, man, I would have just been like, no, this is garbage. We're going to start over and just go from there. Because so many essays, they have each draft is adding a little piece to the puzzle, right? And you keep going. The process that we work through and that we use supercharges that so you can get done in basically 2 drafts, right? So as we most of these points kind of go out, want to stick out, learning about the PTCAS and supplemental prompts, eager to learn what it means perfecting my craft, figuring out how to start, unsure of where to start, organizing your thoughts, right? So everyone's pretty much funneling into that. Let me see Teresa's. This one looks a little bit different. First time playing and don't feel confident in writing my essays. How do I break down the prompt with using personal experience, but not too much to the point where the professional aspect is not there? Great. Mm-hmm. Great. You guys are all in the right spot. So without further ado, let's jump in and have Jenna share the new prompt with us.
The new PTCAS essay prompt for 2023 and 2024. So I'm going to just state it out word for word. Every person has a background, an identity, interest, or talents where they feel their application would be incomplete without having mentioned. Describe the trait or experiences that make you unique and explain how they will help you be a successful physical therapist. So it's kind of funny when we first saw this. I've only been with Sean for a few months now, but when I was shadowing the essay calls of the last cycle, this seemed like his direct what he wanted writers to do for those essays. So it's kind of funny now that this prompt is pretty much what Sean has been doing and what I now get the privilege to do and help you guys in this cycle. This prompt was released by Ryan Bannister, the Director of Centralized Application Services and Student Recruitment for APTA. And like I said, we love this prompt. It, like Teresa was saying, it gives that personal aspects, but it still will allow you to be professional and to not just act like you're talking only about yourself, but about your strengths and about who you are and why you should be included. So yes, writing about yourself is hard. Trust me, I've applied to many other jobs or places too, and it's awkward. You feel like you shouldn't be hyping yourself up that much, but you do deserve to hype yourself up because you do deserve to go to PT school. You've put in the work, you've put in the progress, and this essay is going to show them why you deserve to be in that program. So yes, what do you guys think of this essay prompt? When you first saw our post, or if you saw it on APTA, did it scare you? Were you freaking out about like, oh, what is my identity? What are my interests? What can connect to PT? If you guys want to put that in the chat, we can talk about that. If not, that's fine. Make an essay appointment with us and we can talk one-on-one, but that's just something to think about for this essay prompt.
For sure. And I think as you guys are taking some time to edit there, what I would like to kind of echo with Jenna is we had a post a few weeks ago, or I don't know, can't remember, it was before Memorial Day, where we basically looked at all of the PTCAS essay prompts for the last 10 years. And they basically all say the same thing. Like if you look at what the question behind the question, it's asking, tell me what your personal story is and what do you have to bring to the table that's going to make you a great physical therapist. They all kind of distill down into that. And the wording is varied. But at the end of the day, think about this. If you were going to pick someone to come to a PT program, isn't that basically what you want to know? Like we don't need to overcomplicate this, right? And there are some supplemental essay prompts in particular where you're going to have to be more direct with answering a question. But with all of your essays, please use stories and focus on what you're bringing to the table, because that's what matters. Let's look at some of these comments here. Hannah says she likes it much better than the last one. Hannah, we agree. Okay. The last essay prompt was hot garbage. I hated it because it was like a booby trap. They basically had it. So the first thing that you read, they say, don't talk about this. Why would you put that in the prompt? Just tell us what you want to talk about. So anyways, so many applicants got tripped up on that. And it was very frustrating as a coach to be like, guys, they're telling you not to talk about this. But literally everybody, they were just kind of going on this meandering, rambling story of all their shadowing experiences and why they thought PT was cool and why it was better than being pharmacy or being a nurse or whatever. If you are applying to PT school, we understand that you like physical therapy. Okay. So just take our word for it. And you don't need to go through your entire life story of what led you to choose to apply to PT school. Just tell them, give them some snippets of experiences that show your strengths and what you're bringing to the table. Okay. Let me look at some of these comments here. Sounds straightforward. It sounds straightforward to me, but I like it. Sabrina, I agree. It is much more straightforward. It is much more to the point. This is basically what they were trying to ask you to do for the last prompt, and they realized that it was stupid how they asked it before. And this one is great, so I love it. And Jenna does as well. I think it's amazing because many people have many traits and talents that are underappreciated. Very important characteristic of a PT. For sure, Joanna, definitely agree. What is it asking for? I see it as a possibility to describe your strengths and give a story of showing it. John, that's exactly it. And we're going to talk about, because even you're like, okay, this is cool. I like this prompt. I could see some ideas. But then you like go to do something with it and you kind of come to a screeching halt and you're like, where do I go? So we'll talk you through that. Straightforward, make the essay flow smoothly. Michael, I love those comments as well. But in general, you guys are already going to be way ahead of the other people because the prompt is better. So that's good. Okay, so how important is your PTCAS essay? I'm going to jump to the second point here, 2020 to 2022 application cycle. We had the same prompt for 3 years, and we got really good at that prompt, even though we hated it. So sometimes that's how life goes, right? You get really good at the stuff you don't like. So as far as that's concerned, time and time again, we would have applicants come back to us after they had been accepted to programs and they had been interviewed. And they would say, hey, I just wanted to let you know that my essay was what got me my interview, or they asked all about my essay during the interview, or when I got accepted, they told us that a large part of it was because of my essay. That is just like music to our ears, because once applicants, like after they get accepted, we kind of typically, we don't hear from them as much because they go to PT school and they're super busy with all that stuff. But it is just validation that like the process works, the system works. I'm going to have some of the faces of the people who've been accepted recently later on in the slideshow. And also when we get done with the replay link, I'm going to be sending out like all of our testimonial videos that we have. If you want to go on YouTube and listen to those stories, because they are really cool to hear other people's experiences. But you listen to those videos, and that's a common thread, is like, my essay made me stand out. It made a difference. And essays can absolutely make up for holes or weaknesses in your application. You need to be able to take a step beyond and realize that it's not just your GPA, just your observation hours, just your GRE score. It goes beyond that, right? And your essay is the first opportunity that we have to really hear your voice, like not your physical voice, but like who you are as a person. This is your introduction into who you are, your personality, what you're like. And that's what people fall in love with, right? They don't fall in love with your GPA or your observation hours. Those analytical things are important, And please don't get it twisted. You need to do the best you can in those categories. But what's really going to sell people on you is how you sell yourself. So this essay, for many of you, is likely going to be the most important essay you ever write. And that's not, I'm not just using this in hyperbole. The only problem is, and Jenna and I had a conversation about this last week, we aren't trained to know how to write this way. And Jenna she has a master's degree in writing. And she's like, yeah, no, this is, you have to learn this on the job type of a thing. What are your thoughts on that, Jenna?
Yeah, so you all probably know like 5-paragraph essay. Like that was ingrained in your head in high school. And then you get to college and it's like kind of staying, kind of leaving. And maybe you didn't even write a lot in undergrad, depending on what your major was. But you don't really get told to write about yourself or to use stories unless you're in like a creative writing class or something like that. But the use of stories and the use of talking to yourself is so important. And it's not just for creative writing, but it's for applying yourself. If you're ever writing a cover letter, you are writing about yourself. If you are ever trying to like just make a friend, you're telling stories and you're talking about yourself to like get them to want to go get ice cream with you or something like that. But in school, they focus more on the format that doesn't really mean a lot, and they focus in on making sure you're hitting the specific points and what citation style you're using and all in all. So it might be frustrating writing this essay because you weren't trained or shown how. One thing I will tell you is do not think about the 5-paragraph essay. That started in high school and it does end in high school. You can do as many paragraphs as you want, but of course, staying in the character limit for PTCAS.
For sure. Thanks, Jenna. I think going along with that, you've also got this disconnect, because when you think about school, like what do teachers care about? How easy it is to grade something. I can count, there's 5 paragraphs. You use this citation format because they have all of these papers to grade. So I'm not bagging on teachers. It's just from an effectiveness, it's an efficiency thing for them. This is what I want you to do. If you don't tick all my boxes, then you're not getting a good grade. The only thing that matters, you don't get a grade on your PTCAS essay. Your grade for your PTCAS essay is if someone remembers it and remembers you and wants to get to know you. That's the grade, right? How do we know we have a good report card? If we get results, right? If we're getting results, that's the report card we're looking for. And for us as a team, our report card is what's happening with our applicants. Are they getting into PT schools? Are they getting into multiple PT schools? Are they getting into all the PT schools they apply to? Yes, right? Those situations are happening for applicants across the board. And these aren't just people with 4.0 GPAs. These are people from 2.4 to 4.0, right? Like we're across the board. Essays have made the difference for applicants time and time again, okay? So they're so important. And today we're going to share with you that, like Jenna said, format isn't as important as content, especially because once you're in PTCAS and you input your essay, you can't even like indent. There's certain things you can't do that we're like trained like peons to do them, right? And people are like, oh, what do I do? I don't know. I can't indent. What do I do? And it's fine. It's content over format. So please switch your brain to think that way starting now. And thanks, Jenna, for your thoughts on that as well. And I'll kick it back to you actually, it's me still. Neuroscience. We need to do your neuroscience. So I'm going to geek out a little bit, okay? So Dr. Yuri Hassan is a neuroscience researcher at Princeton who studies how stories affect our brains, okay? And research has found consistently that the most effective way to get someone on the same page as you is to tell them a compelling story. You look at, people used to think like, what's the best way to open up a presentation? Tell a joke. Not true. They found in terms of getting people to agree or to reach a consensus with the point that you're trying to make is to tell them a compelling and engaging story. The human brain is hardwired to remember stories. History was passed down from generation to generation through stories, through experiences, and those were passed on. Think about your favorite books, movies, commercials. If you have a friend that's just always got a good story to tell, those people are magnets. People love to be around them because they're entertaining, right? So the components of what makes a good story, you can tell a story, but there's key components that go into it, right? And this is part of the process that we go through when we're trying to help applicants figure out what to talk about. You need a hero or someone to root for. There's a conflict or some type of tension that has to be overcome. Character development, so we need to see some growth or some strengths that are demonstrated or developed, and then a meaningful resolution, right? This doesn't mean and they all lived happily ever after. Some of the best movies I've seen, they actually make me kind of sad, but they took me somewhere and there was a resolution that had some impact or some meaning, right? For this essay, we're going to mostly stick with hopeful, optimistic, happy things because we want to keep it pretty light. But meaningful resolutions, okay? Those are the key ingredients for effective stories. A hero, a conflict, development, and a resolution. So even if you're not religious, right? Jesus Christ and other transformative teachers taught using stories or parables because they stick with people. They're easy to remember. They are effective ways to teach and to get people on your side and to get them to learn things. So that is the neuroscience behind it. The main neurotransmitters that we want going off in the mind of your reader: dopamine, endorphins, oxytocin. Okay, oxytocin's warm, fuzzy feelings. Oh, this is so great! This is so exciting. This is so meaningful. This is a great connection. Dopamine is what's going to happen next. I'm curious about what's going to happen. And then endorphins, like the euphoria, they're like, oh my gosh, this just feels fantastic. Alma, so let's see. Are there any topics that we should steer away from? Man, that is a loaded question. So yes, but here, let's answer the question by going through the presentation and showing you what you should talk about instead of saying what you shouldn't talk about. Is that fair, Alma? If you still have questions about that by the end, go ahead and holler at us and let us know. Okay. All right. Now it's Jenna. Sorry, Jenna.
Yes, raw materials that make up a great PTCAS essay. So like we've already been kind of drilling into your guys' minds, stories. And these stories should showcase your strengths. So like your authenticity, they should be authentic, and have good imagery, and have some emotion in them. You want to be able to show your strengths rather than tell about it. And hook your reader early, like grab them with a story. You don't necessarily need an introduction into this essay. You can start with that story and hook your reader into who you are with your strengths. And then that comes back into that show, don't tell. Don't just say, I'm really good at communication, or I'm a great listener. Show us how you're a great listener. Did you listen to some patients who maybe were frustrated because no one was listening, so you sat down and had a conversation, but you just let them talk, and share that story and how that kind of had you develop and moved you forward in your journey in life or in PT. And it could even be just listening to a grandparent. Like, I know my grandpa loved talking, so I would always just sit and listen. Now that would be a great story to show how good of a listener I am to the PTCAS reviewers. And then be a victor, not a victim. That's just with making sure you are like standing out and making sure you're not sounding too like, this happened to me and that's why I'm here today. Like, of course, if you went through a hardship, share that story. But like Sean was saying, where's that resolution? Where's that like lighting ending? So we want to keep it light. That doesn't mean you can't talk about like a grandparent who passed away and what did that teach you or show you, or what strength did you learn from that. That's fine. That's a fine example to do. However, you don't want to say a grandparent passed and then you just went downhill. You don't want to kind of bring that to attention. You want to, again, show your strengths and show how maybe you overcome that heartbreak, or how did it connect later on in life to make you stronger in PT or in being human. So I see, Joanne, how long should an efficient essay be for PT application? We actually are going to get to that soon. We have like a character count method for you. I believe for PTCAS essays, though, it's 4,500 characters, including spaces. So there's a little snippet for you now, but we will go deeper into that later in the presentation.
You definitely should fill that up. Like, use all the characters they can give you. And real quick, going back to being a victor and not a victim, to kind of echo what Jenna's saying, is this mentality a lot of times that applicants bring of like, if someone feels sorry for me, that will make them want me to go to their school. And to a degree, you can use difficult life experiences to have people get on your side, but you should focus on how you grew and developed during that time, and not just be like, oh, and then this happened to me, and then this happened to me, and now this is happening to me, and I just need to get into PT school because I've had a really hard time. Like, that's just not very motivating, right? Joanna here, let's see what your question is. Also, telling our stories, what if we have many talents and we want to write a little about all of them? How would that work? Okay, so this is a good point. I was going to bring this up kind of with Jenna's story. So if you're going to talk about a grandparent that passed away, right? That's an isolated experience and is fairly common, right? So like, everyone has people in their lives who die. Like, it's just an unfortunate reality. People get old, they pass away. Sometimes they're young, they pass away. You want to focus on stories that allow you to showcase many of your strengths. And when we go through the brainstorming process, Joanna, you're going to get more of an opportunity to say like, okay, first what we need to do is identify what are the strengths I want to talk about. And then we find the stories that give you the most opportunity to expose that about yourself. Okay. All right, Jenna, sorry, go ahead. Keep on cracking.
Oh, no, you're good. I was actually just about to move on to our sample essay. Yeah, sample essay before coaching. So here is something that some people might submit as a beginning of their essay. When I decided to study abroad with semester at sea, I envisioned myself hiking the Great Wall of China, skydiving over the Cape of South Africa, and gazing at the Taj Mahal at sunrise. What I was not prepared for were the unexpected moments I would share with the locals I met in each country, and the fact that several of these moments would completely alter my outlook on the world and my career path. I had always known that I wanted to go into the medical field. Now, this is fine. This is kind of bringing up many stories, though, and kind of generalizing something that happened at each, and which is fine. And it seems more of that like intro vibe. I would suggest honing in on one of those instances, whether it be the skydiving or the Great Wall of China or the Taj Mahal, and then go into where you met one of those locals and how did that moment change you, and what did you learn from that, and what strengths were you able to show within that. So if you submit something like this, like, that's a fine start, but we are going to help you move to something like this. This is an after coaching essay. I gazed out the window of the rickety bus and watched the red dirt road wind through miles of lush green vegetation. My classmates and I were headed to an orphanage about an hour away from the capital of Ghana in West Africa. I walked into the lobby of the orphanage and opened my backpack to distribute toys and school supplies to dozens of beaming children. I couldn't stop smiling as we played with the kids, running back and forth, playing basketball, and watching them play with the yo-yo for the first time. So this shows a strength of compassion. This goes deeper into one specific event, but I can already spot a few strengths in there. So that's kind of an example of what you want to do or how you want to start your essays, honing in on one experience, but through that experience, you can distribute many talents, kind of like what Joanna was asking. choose that one story, and then share if you're compassionate, empathetic, you're well traveler, stuff like that. And yeah, anything you want to add to that, Sean?
Yeah, I think so. This was one of my favorite essays several years ago because this is the same person, first draft and second draft, right? So very much like what Jenna was saying, we said, okay, this is good, this is fine, but as a reader, I'm kind of like, where do I focus in the first one? It's like we're talking about this, and while that may seem like you want to include a ton of random details, the human brain responds better when there's a cohesive narrative. There's an arc to the story that we talk about, right? So as we went into this is the opening paragraph right here. Okay. There's no intro. There's no like, well, I really want to be a physical therapist and I love this profession and yada, yada, yada. And then they go into a story. Boom. We don't have time for that. Just cut to the chase, get to a story that's going to hook and engage your reader right off the bat. And they're going to immediately be like, okay, I'm kind of on the edge of my seat here. What's going on? Why am I reading this? So hopefully you guys see the value in that is don't just blast a bunch of content in there. You got to be targeted and find a few specific things that can really help you dig in and start developing your strengths. I also tell applicants a lot of the time, it's not so much like there's one right story, right? There's a lot of different stories that you could use. There are like better stories or stories that give you opportunity to talk about more strengths, but it's not necessarily that you have to get the right story or your entire essay is going to be hosed type of a thing. You don't need to look at it from that perspective. Find the right story, choose the right story, and make it the right story. And from there, then you just work on developing your strengths. And even if you have a bunch of different stories, most of you are probably going to have supplemental essays, and you can use those stories in different essays, right? So it's not like it's all for naught when you go through the brainstorming process. We actually recommend you get it all out, and then you rank which ones are going to be the best fit depending on what is required for that essay. And then you can keep that other material for use on later essays, okay? All right, so going into this, I'm going to get a little bit of a soapbox, okay? Are you worried that you don't feel like you have a very exciting or interesting story in your life? Because I know a lot of applicants have that. They come to us and they're like, we ask them, like, what are your strengths? Crickets, blank stares. And they kind of look at us like, and maybe it's because no one's ever asked you that question before. That genuinely, it's an opportunity for you to do some self-reflection and determine, is this actually what is great about me, right? And because you live with yourself day in and day out, the things that you do that are remarkable are normal and natural to you. But to other people, they may be something that is fantastic, right? And having essay coaches along the journey with you, we can help you determine, okay, this is a good strength. Now, with that being said, there's certain ones that I really don't like. I'm a people person. I'm a good communicator. I'm a hard worker. Okay. What do you mean by that? Right? Like what does it mean to be an effective communicator? Like Jenna said, is it more that you're a good active listener and you're able to get down to people's root concerns versus just kind of talking on a superficial level? For being a hard worker, is it that you will not give up and you will adapt to meet the needs of your circumstances to get done what you need to, no matter what? Does that sound more exciting than being a hard worker? Hard worker is like nails on a chalkboard to me. So please don't talk about that. Don't say good communicator. Don't say people person. Don't say hard worker. Go deeper. Ask yourself, okay, well, if I am those things, how do I show that? What do I do to demonstrate that? And then you can actually get at some strengths that have something that rings true to you instead of just being generalizable. Joanna, that's great. I agree. I think once you get that identified, it's so much more engaging and exciting, and it's more fun to write about because you aren't comparing yourself to other people. After we go through this brainstorming process, you have your own blueprint and your own essay, And you don't have to worry about looking to the left or right to look at the applicant next to you to see what that's going to be like. You just have to own your own personal story. So I'm here to tell you, as a coach who's been doing this for years, no two applicants are exactly the same. Even if you're like Jenna, and you have a twin, and you have had like very similar life experiences, no one's exactly the same. Nobody. You're always going to have a different interaction with people, different experiences, different trials, different hardships. Talk about that. That's the only thing that belongs to you. It's the only thing that you've only walked your journey. Nobody else has done it exactly that way. So, soapbox, take ownership over that and enjoy. Okay. So how do we get started? All right. So what we're going to do is the principles and the processes that we're about to show you can and should be applied to any essay prompt, regardless of the prompt or the length of the essay. Okay. So again, I want to make this very clear. Use this process for all of your essays. We're focused on your PTCAS essay because guess what? You can't submit any application until your PTCAS essay is done. And pro tip, you guys may not trust me or believe me on this, but again, coaching for 10 years, learned a few things, applied through thousands of applicants, basically, pseudo applied. Once you complete your PTCAS essay and one application for a program, you can submit your application. And then you can go back and add additional programs, complete their supplemental application essays, and then submit to those programs. Okay. So get your PTCAS essay done first. Make sure you dig your heels in, get that done first. Okay. You will have to adapt for each circumstance, but the process itself doesn't change. It just expands or contracts depending on the size of the essay. 4,500 characters, including spaces, is probably the most common length of an essay. Okay, it's the most common. It's easy. It's a decent size. It comes out to like a page to a page and a half, relatively, depending on the font you use, depending on the content, right? And but if you have a shorter essay, you just use the same principles, but you just condense it. Or if it's bigger, you have more space and more wiggle room. Okay.
Now we're going to start off brainstorming ideas. You don't have to do all of these. You can do one of them, but one of these can help you start thinking up of your stories. So the first one, bulleted list of key ideas. This can just help you organize your thoughts and organize any stories you might want to share and decide which ones have the most strengths you can kind of talk about. Then we have mind mapping, which is a process of organizing your key ideas and points into more of a graphic form that allows you to see all the different views your essay can take, and that you can create a cohesive narrative. So if you're more of a visual learner, I recommend mind mapping. Then 10-minute free write. Set a timer for 10 minutes and dump out as many ideas as you can. You might even start forming paragraphs. You might even finish out with a rough draft that you didn't even know you were doing. You won't probably keep as much of what you write, but there'll be a handful of great ideas and sentences that you can highlight and use into your brainstorming journey and further along in your essay. Use stories to give your essay structure. Now, we've already really dove deep into this, but take an inventory of relevant personal life experiences and possible patient interactive stories and pick a few of those to give your essay a structure. And be sure to have each of those stories focus on your personal strengths. And remember, don't just focus in on hard worker or good at communication. Like, are you compassionate? How are you compassionate? Are you an active listener? Are you a passive listener? Like, what form of that are you? Like, how are you a hard worker? And then talk out loud. Whether you have Apple iPhone or Samsung or what have you, there should be a voice memo feature. And if you want to turn that on and start just free flowing talking, if you do better than typing it or writing anything down, talk with that voice memo and get all those ideas and stuff out. So then you can listen through and pick out ones you think could work further along in your essay. Now,
okay.
brainstorming continued.
Thank you, Jenna. You did a great job of that. We are going to take you through the same brainstorming process that we take our clients through when we start their first essay coaching session. No joke. So obviously there's a bunch of you on right now, so it's going to be not as individualized, but we're going to take you through the same process. And then if you take this exercise seriously and you capture some ideas, you're going to have a great start on your PTCAS essay. Okay. All right. So step 1, discuss why you really want to become a PT. Okay. So this is just, again, you're getting ideas out. It's a question to help you get ideas out. This doesn't mean this is how you're going to start your essay. Please pump the brakes on that. Okay. We just want to get these ideas out because this is going to be a fabric that we're going to weave throughout your essay. There's going to be little glints and glimmers of these ideas throughout the essay. So some questions to help you kind of get some creative juices flowing. How does PT allow you to help people and use an understanding of anatomy in a way that you can't in any other profession? So this is a great question because a lot of people say, I want to help people and I love anatomy. That's why I want to be a PT. But there's a lot of other professions that do those things or use anatomy. So how does PT allow you to do that in a way you can't in other jobs? What are your future professional goals? What do you really want to do? We have an applicant that we actually completed his PTCAS essay almost a month ago, right? Almost a month and a half before the application opened. It was awesome because he was just ready to go and we knew the prompt, and so away we went. He would like to open a clinic that has a duality between working with individuals who want to be high performers with disabilities, so like competitive disability athletes, and then also high performance, just healthy people, right, that have no maladies as far as that's concerned. So that was really cool. That was something that we wanted to include in his essay, and that's unique and different and has some great things that would make people remember him, right? What patient population would you hope to work with? Kind of going back to that same idea. And what unique way will you serve this patient population? So those are just some ideas to kind of get you thinking there. Pratik, let's see here. What is the strengths, talents as a reader see on the sample essay after coaching? What should I honed in after introductory paragraph, hook paragraph? We're going to get there. Give it just a second. I see that you guys, like, the wheels are just spinning right now, but let us teach you the principles. We'll give you the structure, and then we can start to put some of that scaffolding together.
Now, brainstorming step 2. Take an inventory of your greatest strengths. Bucket 1, hard character attributes. Bucket 2, people skills. So just list out all those strengths, and it can be those generalized ones, but in those generalized ones, what are the deeper ones? So some examples could be, are you empathetic? Are you good with working with a team? And how are you good with working with a team? Do you prefer to work by yourself, or do you learn fast? Like, is there something from school or from another job that can help back up a strength that you can take into being a PT? And just take inventory on all of those and just list all those out and see which one of the stories, or even what your first brainstorming step had you do, and see if any of those strengths can connect to any of those answers. Sean, do you want to go into the bucket 1 and bucket 2?
Yeah. So in general, just to provide a little bit more context on this, what we typically find are there's 2 different buckets that people will end up putting their strengths into. And this can help people because a lot of what we see happen is you get, I'm compassionate, I'm empathetic, I'm kind, I'm understanding, and they all kind of revolve around the same general people interaction skills, which is good and it's important in this profession. But hard character attributes are like, how do you deal with problems, right? Like, what do you do to overcome challenges? And we can give you guys an example. Same applicant that we were working with. So his first story that we talked about was when he was 10 years old and he was working in the fields with his dad to save up to buy his own first bike. His dad is deaf and he is hard of hearing, right? So like this kid was just born with opportunities to have to learn how to adapt, how to overcome problems, how to be perseverant, how to be persistent in the face of challenge, all those different types of things. And that's what I mean. Like, the story does the heavy lifting for you, and it tells people about who you are without being conceited or cocky or arrogant. So those are the two buckets, kind of like hard character attributes of how you handle the world. And then bucket 2 is more like your people skills or how you interact with others. So that's a simpler way for us to kind of organize it. And then you kind of just throw attributes into those buckets.
Okay, brainstorming step 3. Take an inventory of your experiences that showcase those greatest strengths that you just threw in those buckets. You should have some non-PT related experiences, and then you have some PT related experiences, and ideally from the last 4 to 5 years for those PT related ones. And make sure your stories focus on why you are awesome, not other people. So for those non-PT related experiences, that could be something from a childhood or something from school, or like Sean was saying, that student who his father was deaf and was hard of hearing, like that experience of working in the field to raise money for a bike, or what did he have to learn to do with being hard of hearing and stuff like that. That's non-PT related experiences. Now then, PT related, it could be when you shadowed, or did you intern at a senior living home or a PT clinic or what have you, and did you work specifically with one patient, and if you did, like, what was something that stood out from that experience? And you can list a few of them and decide which one will be best or has the most strengths involved in that. And it's okay to focus on that person, but the main goal is showing how you handle the situation or how you use your strength to make someone feel safer or make someone enjoy physical therapy. Because physical therapy is tough. you're in pain and you're going through trying to heal that pain, but it's not easy. So what did you do to help that person and make sure the focus is still on you? And I know it's hard to write about you, but this is the one time in life that you should be happy about that. And I don't want to say brag, but like expand on who you are and why you deserve this.
For sure. I think another thing, Jenna, with that is if you don't think that you actually deserve a seat in a PT program, then who else is going to root for you? Your mom? Your dad? Like, of course, there's people who think you should, but you have to believe it in your bones, and you have to be able to talk about it in a convincing, compelling, and articulate way. And that's what these essays are for. That's what separates the men and women from the boys and girls, right? Is the matter of the people who can really own their story and they believe they deserve a seat at the table, right? So let's move on to number 4. So we're kind of putting it all together. Okay. So we're going to select 2 experiences. Okay. You're going to pick one from a non-PT related most of the time and one from a patient interaction experience. This is for your PTCAS essay, right? So we call that non-PT experience kind of your origin story. And typically that's going to talk to us more about kind of like your hard character attributes of like who you are, how you handle the world, different things like that. There can be some of like your people skills in there as well. So I'm not saying it's exclusive, but in general, usually talk about more of those character attributes that are hard, fast. And then your patient interaction experience is you're looking for an experience that, again, showcases your strengths, uses imagery and emotion. You want to make sure you're using imagery and emotion for both of these stories, especially for your origin story, because you need to hook and engage your reader early, right? And what happens is some applicants are like, well, why don't I just talk about one story the whole time? Well, you'll see if you were to read other people's essays, right? This is mostly selfish because I just get bored really easy with essays. When we get about halfway through an essay, there's this lull in brain activity. And a new story creates a spike of brainwave activity because it's like, oh, there's new information, there's new ideas, there's new details here. Let's go ahead and focus in and pay attention. So the mechanics of the essay are, it's a consistent narrative, but we're throwing in some herbs and spices at just the right time to get people to pay attention and be engaged throughout the whole essay. I would like to tell you that everyone who reads your essay, but sometimes they're just glossing through it, or they get through the first 3 or 4 sentences and they're like, I'm done, and they move on. It's literally, I've seen it happen when I was at NAU. People would look at someone's essay, they'd put the folder down, and then there were other ones that they would leave open and they would read the whole thing. And for me, of the 15 that we reviewed, we kind of passed them around with our panel. I liked 2 of the 17 essays that I read. The rest of them, I'm sure they're wonderful people, but their ability to sell themselves was so poor that when they came into the interview, they really had to do a good job. Versus the people who came into the interview, I was already excited to meet that person. When they walked in, I was like, oh man, I've got questions for you. I've got things I can talk to you about. And I was already excited to be engaged with them. So narrow your list of stories down to 2. Again, it doesn't matter which 2, just pick 2 of them and develop them well. And look for those experiences that are anchored, showcasing your strengths, and looking for experiences that have lots of imagery, emotion, authenticity, things like that. Okay. The character count. Go for it, Jenna.
So character count method, you break each essay down based on the character count and the content you want to share. So here's an example that we use when we do our one-on-one essay coaching. So you have your origin story, which Sean and I touched on, which is that personal story that is going to hook your reader. And we suggest between 1,000 and 1,200 characters for that story. And then you have an origin story recap, which is just kind of summarizing the strengths that you discussed and why that origin story matters and what is it saying. And that you want to be around 500 to 800 characters. Then you're going to move into the patient interaction story. Again, like your origin story, this can be around 1,000 to 1,200 characters and is just showing your experience with a patient and what strengths you are portraying through that experience. And then you have the recap, which is again 500 to 800 characters, which summarizes those strengths and the importance of that interaction and what did that do for you. Then you have your conclusion, which can be another 1,000 to 1,200 characters. And this is just kind of summarizing the overall output of the essay and your stories and the importance of that. You want to summarize the strengths of each story, share why these will empower you to be a great PT. That's kind of where you're honing more in that PT aspect, and emphasize the key reasons why you want to be a PT through those stories.
Okay. Thank you, Jenna. That was great. Let's take a little bit of a breath. And we're just over an hour, so the presentation component in terms of the content is there. I'm sure you guys are probably like, you got all these ideas flowing in your head. That's great. That's what the purpose of this webinar is to get the wheels turning, get those creative juices flowing. But you may feel like you were just drinking from a fire hose. And while you're like, okay, I see how this is going to work or how this is effective, we want to move into part 2 of why we're here today, which is to share with you our exclusive coaching offer that we have for you guys to help you take your application in general and specifically your essays to the next level. Okay. So every applicant has their own unique story. We've talked about this time and time again. What we're looking for is you are trying to convey this story in an articulate way that almost establishes your brand as an applicant. So when someone thinks of you, they have kind of this vision in their mind of who they're getting as a person and what type of physical therapist you're going to be in the future. So it is so crucial to own that because, again, like we said, it's the only thing that's 100% uniquely yours. And the applicants who are able to take ownership of that are the ones who thrive and they succeed, and the ones who don't struggle. They have a hard time. It doesn't mean that they don't get accepted. It doesn't mean that they don't get their application done. They struggle, and it may lead to them making mistakes down the road as well. So the most efficient way the easiest way to make sure that you're going to get accepted into PT school is to work with us to ensure that your story is locked on and that you're not making application errors, because guess what? If you're signing up and you're joining with us, we're along with you for the ride. Any application questions you have, we are going to give you our 2 cents. And I'll share a little bit more about that with over the decade of experience we have helping applicants. We're not perfect. We don't know everything, but we know where to find the information, and we know quite a bit more than you guys because this is your first time applying for most of you. So these applicants, when they come to us, before they decide to sign up for our service, they often feel inadequate, fearful, doubtful, concerned, confused, anxious, they're uncertain, overwhelmed, or exhausted. And these feelings in general lead to a stifling of the creative process and make it so hard for applicants to write because you have high cortisol levels when you're having these feelings. You're stressed out, and not in the positive type of a stress. This is distress, not eustress. So once we help applicants to get the tools to transform their way of thinking and give them a structure and a framework to work in, they're excited to write their essays like that. Once we get done with that first call, we always ask a couple things. We're like, "Kid, you know what you need to do? And how are you feeling about your new essay?" And so many times they're like, "You know what? Like, I know this is going to take some work, but I'm actually excited to write this now. This is going to be something that's going to help me. It's going to be kind of this experience for you to relive all the work that you've done to get to this point in your application." Peace of mind, assurance, clarity, confidence, direction, and focus. Okay. Having these feelings be the governing factors when you're applying, they're going to unlock your creative capabilities and make sure you don't make silly mistakes. Okay. So that's what we want to focus on. So here are some of the lovely people that we've worked with over the past couple of years. I love this slide because I just look at each one of these people. I can remember their essays. I remember what they talked about because those stories stick with me. And that was when I was putting this slide together, I literally went through and I was like, they talked about this, they talked about this, they talked about this, they talked about this. And I remember them. I remember each and every one of them. And it's so fun to be able to do that. Many of them have these happy smiling faces because these are all people who are able to get into multiple PT schools and had a great experience. And they loved the service that we provided them. And these are the people who transformed, and we helped them to think about how to use these new tools that you guys have been given to effectively implement them. It's one thing to know them, but how do you actually apply the knowledge that we've given you to create something that is unique and personal to you? Like I said, all of these testimonial videos are going to be up on our YouTube website, our YouTube page, and the link is going to be in the replay link. So you can go and you can listen to their experiences. If you're like, I don't know about these guys, they sound kind of hokey. Go listen to the people who've actually used us and have had a great experience. And this is just over the past couple of years right here. So helping you to get one-on-one attention that's going to help you discover what's unique and special about you from individual coaches who have collectively over 12 years of coaching experience with essays will provide you with a peace of mind that your final draft has reached its full potential. And it is going to be a boon to your application, to be something that will vault you over the finish line instead of have you stumble and trip right at the end. And one of my favorite things that we like to talk about, we can help you get your PTCAS essay done in less than a week. Okay. So from no draft at all to having it submitted, right, in less than a week. Now, we don't want to rush you, right? But many applicants, I can't tell you how many times last year we had applicants said, "I've been working on this for months and I'm stuck and I don't know what to do." I said, "Why didn't you come get me sooner?" Right? You could have been done. You could have enjoyed your summer. You could have had all this time. But that is our focus, is we want to get it done right, get it done quickly so you can decrease your stress, have more peace of mind, be more confident, be more comfortable, and be able to increase your likelihood of getting accepted right off the bat. We want to make sure you apply one time. If you're a reapplicant, you're wonderful. I love you. But we want to make sure that when you're applying, you just do this once and get it over with. Right? Let us be the experts who are reapplying over and over again for people. You just do it one time and then forget about PTCAS and move on and become a great PT. Right? So I want to share with you briefly the key items that are included in this coaching package. Okay. You have 2 1-hour one-on-one coaching sessions. There are typically broken up into 2 segments. There's a 30-minute of editing segment, which is typically you're sending your essay to Jenna. She's going to review it, and then you guys are going to have a call together. Okay. Once the essay is done and ready to go, you have you've completed both of your coaching calls. Then that's going to be finalized by me. So no essay leaves Jenna's final stamp of approval without me looking at it and saying, "Yep, this is good to go." And then you're ready to rock. Okay. So the calls themselves, they give us an opportunity we work on editing, and then we work with you during the call to kind of work through these issues or the questions that we have about your specific situation, bring out some details. And we've done all kinds of different variations of this. Okay. Sometimes we do it where we tried to do it with just one call. It was way too fast and too hard for people to get things put together. The system that we have now is perfect. It's just the right amount of time to make sure that you're able to get your essay done, get it done efficiently and quickly. 1 hour of video course content that includes sample essays and self-evaluation worksheets, answers to all of your PTCAS and application-related questions, right? You can always contact me. Once you get signed up, you can email me at any time. We have access for that, so you can get all your questions answered and make sure that your application is spot on. And in addition to that, we also have our PTCAS checklist, which is the most up-to-date and the most efficient and streamlined way for you to work through your PTCAS application from filling out nothing at all to having it done with your essay completed in a 2-week period. You can obviously go faster than that if PTCAS is all you have, but we assume that you have lives, you are in classes, you're studying for the GRE, you are going on a family vacation. And so we kind of factor that in, that people are busy and they're not just applying. So the PTCAS checklist gets you from nothing in your PTCAS application to completely done. Now, caveat for that. Make sure that you are putting only the information in early. If you already started putting information in early into PTCAS, that will carry over with you. If you have questions about that, we've got stuff on our Instagram page as to what stuff carries over and what stuff doesn't. Application resources for helping you study for the GRE, how to ask your references to be references and get strong letters of recommendation, as well as program selection documents to help you narrow down for sure where you're going to apply to school, and resources to help you transition successfully from a pre-PT to an SPT to a DPT, which may seem far off, but before you know it, you're going to be getting accepted into PT school, and then it's going to be time to turn into a DPT, right? So these are all the resources that are included in the coaching package. It's a tremendous value. But in addition to that, we have to look at what else are you giving up, the opportunity cost, right? So in the future, if you have to reapply, just with PTCAS fees, it's going to cost you, if you apply to 10 programs, about $700. That's not including supplemental fees, having to pay for travel if you have to go to an interview in person. That could potentially be thousands of dollars, right? But a minimum of $700. At least $3,000 in savings from not purchasing unnecessary textbooks. That's one of the resources we give you. What are the books you actually need in BT school? You are going to be 1 year behind that starting $60,000 to $90,000 starting DPT salary. That's a pretty huge opportunity cost if you have to wait another year to get in, right? We want to maximize on that. Help you have maximal control of your time and your opportunities and be able to move forward with your life. Whatever your life plans are, your goals are, we want you to be able to move on and be able to achieve those things and join your career. And also accomplishing your goals, increasing your confidence, silencing your doubts and your doubters, having a sense of belonging, and securing your future and being accepted by others, as well as, most importantly, yourself, that you did it. You achieved your goal. You were able to become a student physical therapist and a future doctor of physical therapy. And you can't buy those feelings. They come along. They're awesome. Hannah here, reapplication expenses, definitely a hardship. Use these resources for your first application cycle. Thank you, Hannah. She's working with us on our consultation package right now. We're meeting a little bit later. So thanks, Hannah. Okay, so if you go and if you were to look up this coaching package online right now, it's $350, 4 payments of almost $88. But because you're here today, we have a special promotion just for you. And I'm going to go ahead and publish this here. So you can use the promo code PREPT20 to get 20% off and off of this price, which would be a one-time payment of $280, or you can get a 4-month installment payment plan for $70 a month to make it easier for you to get signed up. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and there's a significant discount on additional coaching sessions if you're looking to get help with your supplemental essays or other things like that. So it's a huge value for the money that you're spending, and it's an investment in yourself and in the future. And there's also a 100% 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied for whatever reason. We try to resolve those concerns if there are any, but if you're just like, nope, this wasn't for me, it didn't work, then go ahead and we can give you your money back right then. So you can go ahead, click on the link right there, sign up, use the promo code PREPT20 to get started today with Jenna and myself and be a part of the team that's going to get you accepted into PT school as soon as possible. So we also have some time. If you guys have questions, I'm going to go ahead and kick that back over. Jenna, did you have any closing thoughts? Anything else you wanted to say before we kick it to people for questions?
The only thing I want to leave you guys with is that you can do it. You can write about yourself, and we are more than happy to help you. So use this promo, and I look forward to reading your guys' essays.
Yeah, I think that's the most fun part. Is it's so cool to read people's stories and to hear where they're coming from, and just make sure they can give the best product out there so they can really shine on that. So thank you, Jenna. That's great. Yeah. We look forward to working with hopefully all of you. That'd be so fun to get to know everybody's stories.
We got one question from Abigail.
Let's see here. Former comment was an accident. As a general application question, does all of the personal information, academic history, supporting information have to be complete prior to submitting to the first school? Let me find this offer after this chat is closed. Okay. So Abigail, let me see if I can answer your question here. General application question, does all the personal information, academic history, supporting information have to be complete prior to submitting to the first school? Yes. So your application, there's a progress bar when you click on the submit application button. If that progress bar is not full and there's a green check mark next to it, you can't submit your application. What happens though is you can submit to a program and then add additional programs later. Does that make sense? So you don't have to have all of your schools. You don't have to submit to everybody all at one time. Just submit. We typically recommend that you submit to the program that has only one, that has no supplemental essays, just your PTCAS essay. Submit to those programs first because you don't have to spend additional time doing supplemental essays. Unless it's a program that has rolling admissions or a really early deadline, then obviously you want to get those done first as far as that goes. Abigail, I hope that answers your question. If I missed it, go ahead and give me some clarification there. Jordan, how do we find this offer after the chat's been closed? So there's going to be multiple replay link emails that are going to be sent out. It's in the replay link email as well. And you can always reach out to us if you want to know more, right? So this promotion is good for the next 2 days, and there's 20 spots available. So we want to make sure that you guys are able to maximize that opportunity, but we also don't want to overwhelm the system because we want people to be able to get their essays done quickly. So that's why we limit the number of seats that we have. Okay, Joanna, will I be able to keep my letters of recommendation and submit them to all schools I'm applying to after I submit first application? Okay, Joanna, I think I know what you're saying. So pay attention to our Instagram because we're gonna have a new video coming out about this next week. When you submit your letters of recommendation, okay, the system has changed the location of where letters of recommendation are in PTCAS. They're now located under the program materials section. It's individualized for each program who you want to send, which references you want to send to them. So PTCAS allows you to upload a maximum of 5 references, but each program differs in how many are required and how many are allowed. So there's some that only require 2 and they only allow 2. There's some that allow you to have all 5 that you can submit. So typically what we recommend doing is you go to the program that has the most references allowed, and you submit all of those references first to that program. And then there's an option for your reference to be able to reuse what they input for your letter of recommendation for future letters of recommendation or references for other programs. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to have 5 different programs, and each program is going to have you input the same information, and you're just going to blast them with a bunch of emails. And it's super confusing about, like, I thought I did this already. I wasn't sure. So that's what I would do, is find a program that gives you the most letters of recommendation to upload all of your recommendations, and then talk to those recommendations and say, hey, I want to make this as simple as possible for you and for myself. Please click the option to allow your reference to be reused when I put the same information in for other programs. Okay, and we'll have a video coming out about that, because this webinar is not about that, but still a good question. Any other questions? Everybody's tired. You're welcome, Joanna. Okay, we'll hang on like another couple minutes, but let's see here. Okay, so we had someone ask about the components of the application that won't carry over. Again, I'm going to go with what does carry over. So everything that's in personal information, everything that's in academic history information, and then you can upload from the supporting information window. It's experiences, licenses, and certifications. And what's the other one I'm missing? Achievements. Yeah, those are the 3. So if you have questions about that, Jaden, if you don't already follow us on Instagram, there's a post about it that has everything laid out. There's multiple posts that talk about what you can upload. And it has graphics on there, so it's a little bit easier than me just describing it to you verbally. And there's also a video on YouTube that we could share with you. If we got some time, I'll go ahead and see if I can pull that up. Okay, Alex, what does the PTCAS professional transcript entry do, and is it a good idea to use this tool? So Alex, the PTCAS professional transcript entry is essentially you giving PTCAS, the people who work at PTCAS, money in exchange for them uploading your transcript into PTCAS, right? So it's for people that are like really anxious about making sure everything gets entered correctly. It's really not that hard. Unless you have an extremely complicated academic history, like you went to like 6 different universities and you're just wanting to make sure you don't make a mistake on that, I would definitely not do it personally, because you can just get an unofficial transcript off of most colleges allow you to be able to just look that up, and you're putting in the same information. You're putting in what the class is, how many credits it was, and what the grade was that you got. That's it. It's kind of a mindless task that you can do at the end of the day after you've been working on your essay. Thank you, Jenna. Appreciate you for putting that in. And I hope, Alex, that gives you a good bit of information about it. If you have a really complicated academic history situation, it may be beneficial to do it. But in general, most people, they've been to 1 or 2 universities or colleges. It's not that hard to just put the information in from your transcript. And it can save you some money at a time that's already pretty expensive. Let's see, Steven here. How do transcripts work? Do we order them from our universities and then upload them to PTCAS? Okay, so Steph, what we're doing here is when you have your transcript, you're going to request it electronically be sent to PTCAS. There are multiple different services that you can use through PTCAS to be able to send your transcript electronically to them. Okay, so it'll say in there like, okay, this university is housed under this company who sends it electronically. I know it's confusing, but that's the way it is, as far as that's concerned. So when you have your transcript sent, then that is technically you're ordering them. You don't need to order them from your school in particular. There is a fee that you pay to order it, though. Okay. Let's see here. John, how would you conclude this essay? I've always been taught to basically reiterate your points. John, it's pretty spot on. I'm going to let Jenna take that one. How would you, based on what we've talked about thus far, Jenna, how would you conclude with the key points that we've talked about today?
Yes. So for the conclusion of this essay, you do want to summarize the strengths from both of the stories that you share, which is your origin story and the patient story. You also want to go into why these will empower you to be a great PT. This concluding paragraph is kind of where you will put the emphasis on like why you want to be a PT and how these strengths back up the claim of why you should be a PT and should be accepted. So that's where you'll do all that in your conclusion rather than doing a little bit in the intro, because the intro is going to be your origin story. Don't worry too much about an introductory paragraph for this essay. Mainly focus on your stories, and then that concluding paragraph where you summarize your strengths, share why they will empower you to be a great PT, and then emphasize the key reasons why you want to be a PT. Does that answer your question, John?
Spot on. Okay, Miriam, does that information carry over? Are you talking about transcript stuff? Miriam, probably need you to clarify there before I answer that, because it could be anything. Hannah, if I retook one biology class from another school, am I able to put that new retake grade in other than the old grade from my original university? So, Hannah, you're going to need to upload everything that you put in. You are going to have to, everything that's on your transcript, you have to upload to PTCAS. If there's any discrepancies, then there's going to be an error in the system. And PTCAS is going to look at your transcript and say, well, where's this class? Why isn't that in there? And it's every place you've earned college credit. Okay. So if you have a retake for a class, don't worry so much about it being on there. You retook it. And so that, because you're retaking it and marking it, designating it as a prerequisite course, that's going to let people know that you, that's a retake. And they're just going to take, usually most programs will take the higher grade of the two of them. So you have to put them both on there. You'll need to request that transcript be sent to PTCAS if you just took it at a completely different university, because we have new credits that are being added on. Okay, Steph. So do we request our transcripts to PTCAS and not to the university? Not necessarily. So Steph, let me clarify this. So there is a service, they have different names, but there's a service that partners with universities to electronically send transcripts to organizations. Okay. You will have to use that service to have your transcript sent from your university to PTCAS. So it's not like it's in, like the information for how to access those third parties is found in PTCAS, but you're going outside of PTCAS to have that actually submitted. And you're creating a transcript request form. It's going to say like your PTCAS ID and other information like that. That will be attached to your transcript. So when it gets sent off, then it's paired to you and it's paired to your application. Okay. Miriam, I think we've answered that. Oh, does academic information carry over? So yes, it will carry over. If you've put in all those credits, that's such a pain to have to redo them. You just need to be careful if you've retaken classes or you have new classes on your transcript, that you have all of those classes in there. And then if you do have new classes, you need to send them on, send in a new transcript. Brianna, what if I'm still taking a prerequisite while I'm trying to submit my application? Would I put a projected date? Brianna, that's a great question. So you can put upcoming or planned coursework in there as well to just let people know that you've got the plans to take the prerequisites. The number one thing that I would recommend doing is contacting the programs and making sure that you have enough prerequisites completed in order to submit your application. Okay. Because what happens is if you have like 4 or 5 outstanding prerequisite courses, some schools may not accept your application as it stands. Most of the time, 2 or 3 prerequisites in progress is just fine. Programs understand you haven't taken them all yet, but they want to have the vast majority of them completed. So if that's the only prerequisite you have, you're just going to put it on as a planned or in progress, and then you'll just submit it. And once you complete the class, you'll upload it with the academic update, which is in December or January. Okay. All right, guys. It's an hour and a half. The witching hour is upon us. Thank you guys so much. We look forward to working with all of you in the future, and we're excited to help you out with your essays. Jenna, thank you so much for coming on today. And if you guys have any other questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. Reach out via social media, email us. Most of you guys are on our email list. If not, you'll be added today. All those type of things. Okay. So thanks. You guys have been awesome. Appreciate all the questions, and happy applying.